Yeah, good evening to one and all present. Today, for the second week of Bioinformatics School Children Program, I welcome Dr. Sandeep, who is Assistant Professor in the Department of Life Sciences, Microbial Genomics and Phytotoxicology Lab, Jain University, Bangalore. Sir's specialization is in human genetics and Sir has special research interest in SARS-CoV-2 and immune system dysregulation, drug development, and autoimmunity with special emphasis on pharmacogenetics with respect to diverse Indian population. So, before taking much of your time, welcome to Shan sir, good evening. Sir.
Sorry, good evening. Please carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, so please, we are honored to have you here for proteins and molecules session today. Please start, sir.
So can I start, Raju?
Yeah, sure. Please, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. So hello everyone. Today. So is my screen visible to everyone? Is my screen visible? Okay. So in today's class, we will be looking at the biomolecules and okay. So these biomolecules are the foundation of life on the earth. So whatever we see life that exists on the earth, the basis for this existence are biomolecules. So in today's session, we will look what are these biomolecules and different types of biomolecules. Now, if you look, this screen is not visible. Okay. Okay. Uh, so, okay. Now you can see this beautiful picture. Okay. Now, if you try to look carefully into this beautiful picture, you will find certain things. You will find circle, rectangle, ellipse, oval shapes. So these different kinds of shapes are making such a beautiful building. Similarly, if you come to cell, okay, we have so in your school you have learned about the cell and the different organelles in the cell and everything. But if you try to look a bit deeper into this particular organelle, all these organelles, lysosome, mitochondria, ribosome, cytoplasm, all of them are made up of certain biomolecules. So what are these exact biomolecules? Now, if you try to look at the cell and try to look what is available in the cell, the different kind of biomolecules, we can classify them into inorganic and organic biomolecules. So, inorganic biomolecules is water and mineral salts, whereas your organic includes carbohydrates, lipids, proteins and nucleic acids. So these are the major biomolecules which are the building blocks of cell, and cell is the basic structural and functional unit of the entire living system. So ultimately, in conclusion, what we can say is these biomolecules are the major reason why a cell can exist. If these biomolecules are unable, are not existing, there is no way a cell could able to function, because these biomolecules are performing diverse function which is allowing cell to survive. Now, the first and foremost thing is water. Like we have seen, the first one is water. So why it is not changing? Yes. So it is not changing. My screen is not changing. So now the first thing what we have discussed is the water. So water is very essential for the entire living system. So around 60 to 75% of the human body is like we have a water. Human like weight of the human body depends upon its 60 to 75% water, and just a 4% loss of water is going to cause dehydration. If we lose 15% of the water, that is pretty much fatal for us. So the water is the base on which the life exists, and we can survive without food for nearly 1 month, but if you don't drink water for 3 days, there is no way we can survive. Now the question comes, why water is so necessary for life? Now, so here the water is a something called universal solvent, means it could able to dissolve most of the other molecules in the cell. So because of that it is called as a universal solvent. Now your water is a polar molecule which is having 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen, okay, H2O. So H is having slightly positive charge whereas O is having slightly negative charge. So because of its polarity it could able to dissolve lots of other molecules. So this particular property of water being polar and its ability to dissolve all other biomolecules inside the cell makes it a life sustaining force. And whatever we have, this blood, which is a fluid connective tissue which will go through all of the body and try to supply nutrients and everything, it is also based on the water. Apart from that, water is also involved in transport of different molecules from one end of the body to another end of the body. Now, apart from that particular point, okay, now, sorry, no, I have made it full screen now. From my end, it is full screen. Now, apart from that, water has apart from dissolving different biomolecules that will allow them to function in a proper way, water has another important property exists. So your water molecule, apart from dissolving and allowing different reactions to occur inside the cell, they are also preventing the collapse of cell under the pressure from outside. So another important in the cell, they are exerting equal pressure on the membrane so that they could able to maintain in a proper way. So if what so second point we have discussed is the minerals. So our body needs different kinds of minerals. Again, now body needs different kinds of minerals in the cell to carry out different kinds of chemical reactions. So these are the different minerals which are required in the cell to carry out different kinds of biochemical functions. So these particular minerals are performing structural minerals such as calcium and phosphorus that are the part of bones and teeth, and then we have functional minerals such as calcium, phosphorus and all other things which participate in different kinds of cellular reactions such as signaling system. So calcium is mainly involved in signaling system, phosphorus is mainly involved in the DNA and RNA, and whatever we have these minerals such as calcium, magnesium and manganese are involved in different kinds. They are acting as a cofactor in number of oxidation reduction reactions. Apart from that, they also maintain a delicate cellular fluid balance, and they also help in maintaining acid-base balance in the body fluid, control the osmotic pressure in the entire compartment, and they allow the nerve impulse to move from brain to muscles and muscles to brain, and they also control different muscle activity, tone and other things. Now another important biomolecule is carbohydrate. So these carbohydrates can be classified into monosaccharide, disaccharide and polysaccharides. Monosaccharides examples are glucose, which is available as a blood glucose, grape sugar and dextrose. Then we have fructose, example is livulose. Then we have a galactose, which is another kind of sugar, and C6, which is the molecular formula for all of these sugars. Then we have disaccharides. So again, my screen is not moving. Okay. So till now we have discussed about monosaccharides, which is a single sugar unit. When we say monosaccharide, this particular sugar molecules are having only single sugar unit. When I say disaccharide, they are having two sugar molecules. And when I say polysaccharides, there are many molecules. So example for disaccharides are sucrose, maltose, cellulobiose, lactose, that is milk sugar. So all these disaccharides are having two units of sugar, whereas polysaccharides, example starch and cellulose, they have many units. Sometimes these units are similar and sometimes these units are different from each other. The next biomolecules is lipids. So these lipids can be classified into fatty acids and glycerides. Then fatty acids can be again two types: saturated, unsaturated. Saturation means they don't have any kind of double bond. Unsaturated means they have a double bond. Then glycerides, that can be neutral glycerides or phosphoglycerides. Neutral means they don't have any kind of charge on this particular molecule, whereas phosphoglyceride means they have a phosphate molecule on their head. So again we have non-glycerolipids and complex lipids, and example of complex lipids are lipoproteins, and these lipoproteins may be available on the cell surface. And we have non-glyceride lipids, which include waxes, sphingolipids, steroids, sphingomyelins and glycolipids. So the major part of the cell, which is cell membrane, they have this lipid membrane, and these lipids are the major thing which are helpful in separating inside environment from the outside environment of the cell. The next set of biomolecules are nucleic acids. In the nucleic acid, two major biomolecules are RNA and DNA molecule. So RNA and DNA, between RNA and DNA there is one difference, that in RNA we have uracil, in that place in case of DNA we have thymine. Apart from that, most of the time your RNA is normally a single stranded molecule, whereas your DNA is mostly a double stranded molecule. And DNA is a major genetic material, whereas RNA is a informational carrier. It will carry the information from DNA to the rest of the cell that will allow in the synthesis of proteins. The next set of biomolecules are amino acids. So these amino acids are classified into three types: essential, conditionally non-essential and non-essential. Essential means we are unable to synthesize them in the body, and so we need it from our normal food source. Then we have conditionally non-essential, means they sometimes required, they sometimes may not be required. So depending upon the context, they may be needed from the outside. Non-essential are the amino acids which we are capable of synthesizing. Now, as we have discussed in the last two slides, DNA, RNA and amino acids. Now, whatever DNA is there, this DNA will, on the DNA we have the transcription process that will generate single-stranded mRNA, and this mRNA is translated into protein. Protein is nothing but a series of amino acids in a specific order, which is coded by the nucleic acid. So your mRNA has the information what set or the what order of amino acids need to be kept together, and that information is translated by the ribosome. Once this entire thing is over, the translation process, we have something called primary structure. Okay, after some time or sometimes simultaneously, this primary structure may fold to secondary structure, and then it will fold to tertiary structure. When two or three different subunits are coming together, they will form a quaternary structure. Now, what are the functions of the proteins? So these proteins can function as structural components, or they can also act as chemical messengers, disease defense and enzymes. So these are the different functions of the proteins. So structural components include skin, hair and muscles. Whereas your chemical messengers include hormones, which, like we have talked about, you have learned about the different hormones, flight and fight hormone, pituitary gland hormones, other hormones. And disease defense include antibodies which are synthesized from the B cell. Then your proteins also include enzymes such as catalase and lactase. Now this is an example of a protein which is performing enzymatic function. Now if you look carefully into this protein, it has two sides. One is binding side, whatever we have this blue color is a binding side, and second one, this is a catalytic side which will catalyze the reaction. Then these are the different examples of the enzyme: pepsin, lactase, topoisomerase, hyaluronidase and zymase, which are performing different functions in the cell. So pepsin in the stomach used to break proteins into peptides, and this particular enzyme has capability of working at very low pH. Then we have lactase, which is capable of breaking down lactose, and if we have low levels of this particular enzyme in the body, we will be suffering from lactose intolerance. Then we have another enzyme, topoisomerase, a family of enzymes that can act on the coiled coil. So the DNA is totally coiled inside the cell. So when we want to transcribe our replication, we have to remove this coiling to make them in a normal form. At that time we have this particular enzyme, topoisomerase. Then we have another component in the cell that is called hyaluronidase. This is the enzyme hyaluronidase, and they act on a particular chemical compound called hyaluronic acid. Then we have another enzyme called zymase that is normally found in the yeast, in baking yeast, and that will convert sugar into ethanol and carbon dioxide. So this completes today's presentation. In the next session, I will be showing you the different softwares where we could able to visualize different proteins, and then we can have a small assignment on that. If you have any question, you can ask me.
For such great presentation, I would now request all the students to open up their webcam and mics and please interact. Naya, Pushpendra Singh, Soumya Hari, Aradhya, if you all can open up your webcam and ask questions. Can you all hear me, please? Yeah. Naya, in which grade are you in? Your mic is off, Naya. If you can reply, in which grade are you in?
Hello, am I audible now?
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yes, you're audible.
Absolutely, sir. I don't actually have any questions. The PPT was really well. And I think, it was, I got a better understanding and a deeper understanding of a lot of different biomolecules. I mean, I've studied the basics, but I think sir really took me over, the different kind of diversions that they have in various books. So I think that's very interesting. It's something I'm going to read up later after class as well and explore.
Yeah, sure. Bhavya, do you have any questions to ask?
No,
Aradhya, do you want to ask anything?
no, ma'am, everything was quite clear.
We will have a very interesting session tomorrow. So, if you don't have any questions, Sundar sir, do you want to say something?
I will ask one question to students.
Yeah, yes sir.
Is it okay?
Sure sir.
Okay, now we have talked about 4 different kinds of biomolecules apart from water and minerals, which are inorganic. Okay. Now, can these biomolecules together form a new kind of molecule. Now let us talk about nucleic acid. Okay, so can nucleic acid and protein together can form a new kind of molecule that will perform a specific function? Is it possible, or they always work independent of each other? Your domain is your domain, my domain is my domain. I am carbohydrate, you are protein. Don't come near to me. So will they collaborate with? Yes, Naya.
I do think that they will have to, mix or combine to form other compounds, other molecules, because I mean, the body is like one whole cohesive, holistic machine, right? Not everything works. I mean, at some point they will be connected to each other. Like I might be wrong about this, but like you were talking about nucleic acids and proteins, I know they do combine to form a kind of group. I don't know what they're called, and I think they're also like part of chromatin, like the mixture of nucleic acids and proteins. They're part of chromatin um, somewhere.
Correct.
So I do believe at some point they will have to meet and combine to serve their purposes. Yeah.
No, that is correct, Naya. They have to always interact with each other. The collaboration between them makes the life sustainable. If these molecules doesn't interact with each other, then life is not possible. So they individually they mean nothing. It's entirely a teamwork of these biomolecules that makes a life possible. Okay, if you have to prioritize one biomolecule among four of them, which one it will be?
If I may go first, so I think it's really hard to prioritize one single one because, like you mentioned, the body is a cohesive machine made up of all of them. They all interact. They play their own roles. But personally, I do think that water as a biomolecule plays a huge role. Like you said, it's a universal solvent. It kind of brings together every other single biomolecule. So I would say it is one of the more important ones. But at the same time, I don't discount the role that other biomolecules play.
Okay, that's good. That's absolutely right. But if you have to talk about, if you are talking about nucleic acid, carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins, if you have to prioritize one, then
I think that the best way to go about prioritizing would be to first understand in what context are we prioritizing them? Are we prioritizing them in relation to a certain function that they all might play, or like for example, I mean, if you just ask me what I prioritize as such, like I said, they all play their own different roles. So it would be um, I personally believe it would be like pretty uneducated. Like it would be me making an uneducated opinion or statement if I were to prioritize one. I think it depends on the context in which you prioritize them. Like for example, if you're talking about cell building, it's something completely different. If you're talking about the reproduction or stuff like that, then something else would take higher priority. Because that's what I feel.
okay, that is correct. Like in the context is very very important as you mentioned. Now I am talking about the cell's overall survivability. Okay, so when we talk about the existence of cell, which among these biomolecules, lipids, proteins, nucleic acid, and carbohydrate is very important?
I think that I would choose nucleic acid since the basis of the existence of a cell comes with its production, and nucleic acids do contain, the code of their existence. So I think that that's where I would start. But really, I think all the other biomolecules ensure its existence after its production. So it's kind of like the egg and the hen, which comes first. Um, But for me, it would be nucleic acids. It's debatable.
Okay. Aradhya, what about you? What is your opinion?
So I think it's protein because it's basically in the cell and it helps to give you information.
Okay. So now, in my opinion, lipids are more important for the cell's overall survivability because your lipids are creating a boundary between cell and the other environment. Okay. Now, cell is cell because of the boundary which exists around itself. Okay. Suppose if you remove this boundary and try to put everything. Okay. Now, what happens? Everyone will move wherever they want without any collaboration. Okay. Now, a nucleic acid has to collaborate with protein. They should be in proximity of each other. Is it right? If one is at one position, other is at another position, can they collaborate with each other?
No, I think that might be slightly tough. They would have to like either get something in between them, or they'll have to form a connection, or they'll need a pathway.
Yes. So the what happens now when they are far away from each other, collaboration between them is very difficult. Okay. But if you put them, you make a ring and try to put all of them in that ring, it is very easy for them to interact because they are in close proximity. So your plasma membrane is the one thing that makes a life possible because it makes differentiation between outer environment and inner environment, and it puts all biomolecules in specific compartment. There are specific reactions which are occurring in specific compartment. Okay. So one of the basis for life evolution is compartmentalization of the things, and without plasma membrane there is no compartmentalization. And if you remove this compartmentalization, so all the biochemical reactions will be occurring at one particular position. It is very difficult to channelize the different biomolecules to to put them in a particular order. So whatever we have plasma membrane, that is making the compartment from the outside as well as within the cell, and that is allowing all the biochemical reactions to proceed. Okay. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then which is the energy source among all these biomolecules?
You are muted, Naya.
Hello, madam.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Naya, you are muted.
I am muted.
No, no,
No, madam.
you are
Actually,
audible,
Sorry,
sir.
sorry, I'm muted.
Yeah.
Sorry,
okay.
there seems to be some kind of issue. I think maybe I'm clicking it too many times. No, carbohydrate.
Carbohydrate. Okay. Now carbohydrates. If so, now if you talk about carbohydrates, specifically glucose. Okay. Now glucose is catabolized in two compartments in the cell. Is it right? So first compartment is your cytoplasm and second compartment is your mitochondria. Now if you just catabolize glucose only in one compartment, that is glycolysis, you get only two molecules of ATP. But the same glucose, if you catabolize after some cytoplasm, if you send it to the mitochondria under TCA cycle, you will be getting around 30 more ATPs. Okay, you are getting more than 30 ATPs. So you are drastically increasing the number of ATP molecules, which is nothing but the energy currency of the cell. So this kind of things are possible because of compartmentalization. If you don't compartmentalize the things from different places, it is very difficult for cell to exist. Very similar to our school. In the school we have a different sections at different places. Okay, and individual teacher is handling the entire section. Imagine there is no compartmentalization, a big building is there and all the students are sitting there without any demarcation. So entire thing will be chaos. Is it right? Entire biomolecules we make a compartmentalization, they are like restricted in their movement. Okay.
In the questions you asked later.
Am I audible, Rajul, now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's all from my end.
Thank you so much, sir, for laying this foundation of biomolecules today. I believe we'll be having so much fun tomorrow while learning about various tools and techniques to have better understandings towards biomolecules. Thank you for your time, sir. Thank you, Subhnakar sir and Sundar sir, and our lovely children. Thank you. Uh, Subhnakar sir, can we?
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.